Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Education Board.
Hello students, welcome to the TV learning programs. As usual, I'm Teacher Herbert. I'm going to be taking you through biology and health science for Senior 1. So students, before we start our lesson of today, let's first write the unit. It is Unit 6, which is concerning about Unit 5, which is plant and animal cells. That is biology. So students, as you know, we started studying biology in Senior 1 in first term, where we said biology is the study of living things. And you said biology comes from two Greek words. One is called bio, another one called logos. And bio, you said bio means life, and logos means the study. So today I will be taking you through a branch of a Unit 5, which is concerning about plant cells and animal cells. So before we start our lesson today, let us take our exercise books, our notebooks, and you try to note some important concepts that are concerning about that unit. We have to first to study to know what is a cell. Students, what is a cell? Or what are cells? What are cells? This is a definition. A cells. What are cells? What are cells? So think about it in a short time, then you give me the answer of what are cells. You can say cells are the basic. Cells are the basic units of living organisms. All right? So the basic unit of living organisms, these are called cells. In our body is made up of different cells. And those different cells, they perform different functions. We can say that a cell by definition, when it is a cell. A cell, when it is one, you can say a cell is the basic structure and functional unit of a living organism. A living organism. All right. So you can also say that most of the cells are made up of molecules. What are the major constituents of cells? What are the molecules that makes up a cell? Okay? Cells are made up of molecules. Examples of these molecules, who can give me an example of the molecules that makes up the cell? We have proteins. We can talk about proteins. We can talk about carbohydrates. We can talk about the fats. These are the molecules that makes up a cell. And you can also say that these molecules are also made up of some of the compounds that makes up the cell. That's why we say a cell sometimes is the building blocks of a living organism. You can also say a cell is the building blocks of a living organism. And you can say a cell, these are molecules. You can also say these molecules are I'm talking about these molecules, the proteins, the carbohydrates, and fats are made up of, you can talk about hydrogen, you can talk about carbon, you can talk about carbon, hydrogen, and can also talk about and oxygen. We normally say organisms such as bacteria, we have complex organisms. Bacteria, take an example, the bacteria are made up of one cell. We have two types of cells. Organisms are made up of different cells. Okay? For example, in amoeba, can say it is referred to as a unicellular organism. If I say a unicellular organism, you can call it unicellular, or you call it what you call a single-celled organism. A single-celled organism. If I say the word unicellular, the word unicellular, uni means one. What does it mean? Mean these amoeba and bacteria, they are made up of a single cell. They are single-celled organisms. They are not multicellular organisms. Their body are made up of a single cell. That's why you call it to be unicellular organism. That's uni means one. But when it is made up of more than two cells, okay? E.g., when an organism is made up more than one cell is referred to as a multicellular organisms. Examples of multicellular organisms, let's have examples. Students, let's have examples of multicellular organisms. Examples, you can have human beings. Human beings are examples of multicellular organisms. You also have the plants. Plants are also examples of plants. You can call it to be trees, are examples of multicellular organisms. All right? So in this way, for us, we're going to talk about a cell. It is not very easy for you to see a cell using your naked eyes. Most of the time, we normally use electronic microscope to see a cell and give it its detailed structures. All right, so we can say, because cells are too small, they are too tiny, they cannot be seen with our naked eyes. Using our naked eyes, we can't see a cell. So scientists can use the microscopes to see the structure of the cell. And sometimes they use a powerful microscope, which are called electronic microscope, to view the structures of two small organisms. Take an example like amoeba, bacteria, which are very small, which are very tiny, to be seen by our naked eyes. So let's talk about now the structure. We're going to talk about the structures found in plants, as well as in animals, and in animals. What are these structures that are normally made up of in plants and animal cells? Let's try to see what are the major structures that makes up the plant cell and an animal cell. We can say all cells have the same basic structure, but the cells contain the cytoplasm as an organelles. We can also say that the cytoplasm is a living jelly-like substances in which organelles are found. Most in the cytoplasm, that's where we normally found very many organelles. Examples of the organelles that we can see, we can talk about the mitochondria, we can talk about the vacuole, the cell vacuole, we can talk about the chloroplasts and other organelles that are normally found in the cytoplasm. I can say many chemical reactions that takes place inside the cytoplasm. Inside the cytoplasm, it is made mainly for water, in which the substances such as sugar, gases are dissolved. The organelles in the cytoplasm carry out special functions inside the cell. Examples of the organelles includes examples of the organelles that are found, examples of the organelles that are found in both plants and animals. And animal cells, we have, number one, we can have the nucleus, we can have the cell membrane, we can have the mitochondria, as I mentioned, mitochondria. This is A. When it is in singular, we call it to be mitochondrion. Mitochondrion. You also have, which is supposed to be the cell vacuole. You can call it to be cell vacuole. You also have another one which is called the cytoplasm. And I said the cytoplasm is a gel-like substances or liquid-like, fluid-like substances, which is used to store the food materials and also removing of the waste product from the cell. Students, quickly let us see on the diagram that tries to identify the internal structures of a plant cell and the internal structures of an animal cell. Student, here is the diagram. This is the diagram. In our diagram, we have diagram 1. I call it to be A, which is called a plant cell. Diagram B is trying to present about an animal cell. Let's try to see some of the organelles that are found in plant cell and also found in animal cell. Most of these plant cell and animal cells, they share in common some of the organelles, but they have a common differences. Okay? As you can see in terms of the shape, it is regular in shape. But if you see the structure of an animal cell, it is oval-shaped. If I say oval-shaped, it is like an oval-shaped, like a circle, oval-shaped. So let us see with the plant cell, see the structure. We have the cell wall. We have the cell membrane. The cell membrane is next to going to the cytoplasm. We have the cytoplasm. I said the cytoplasm is a gel-like fluid which contains fluid material that supplies to the cell and gives the cell if the cell is to survive. We say large vacuole. What we see inside, we have cell vacuole, which is supposed to be occupying the central part of the plant cell. We have the nucleus, and I said the nucleus, we're going to see their function. We have the nucleus, we have the mitochondria. I said in singular, we call it to be mitochondrion. We have the chloroplast, and this is for the case of a plant cell. Then on an animal cell, we have mitochondria, we have smaller vacuole. As you can see, the size of the vacuole of an animal cell is somehow it is small compared to the plant cell. We have the nucleus, we have the cytoplasm, and I can refer you to go and check in new secondary biology. You check on page 51. That's why you can just get that information in what you call new secondary biology for Rwanda secondary schools. You can get these diagrams. They are well labeled and you can understand them. All right? So, student, let us try to highlight the functions of each part of the cell. All right? Let's talk about the functional parts of each part of a cell. So let's start with number 1, functions of parts of a plant cell and an animal cell, and animal cell. Number one, I can call it to be Roman 1, which is the cell membrane. If I say the cell membrane, as you have seen, the cell membrane is the next to the cell wall. In a plant cell, we have the cell wall, the next to the cell wall is the cell membrane. What is the function of cell membrane? Students, think about it, and you give me the answer of what you call a cell membrane. The function of cell membrane, you can say, it's a cell membrane surrounds the cytoplasm and keeps the cell content in place. It keeps the cell content in place. So meaning that the cell content, it surrounds the cytoplasm. This is supposed to be the cytoplasm, and you can see there is what you call cell membrane. The cell membrane surrounds the cytoplasm and keeps the cell content in place. Write that definition. Write the function. You can say the cell membrane surrounds the cytoplasm and keeps the cell contents in place. Not only that, we can also say that the cell membrane is also referred to as selectively permeable. In biology, if I say selectively permeable, what does it mean? It means that it can allow some substances into or out of the cell. You can also say that the cell membrane, it is also referred to as selectively permeable, which means that it controls substances into and out of the cell. Not only that, the cell membrane can also perform the function of providing a protection from any protecting the internal part of the cell. So it gives a protection to the internal part of the cell. Number two, Roman 2, let's talk about the nucleus. As I told you, the nucleus of a plant cell, can see the nucleus of a plant cell. This is where the nucleus of a plant cell is normally located in the central. It is in the central, but for the case of the nucleus of an animal cell, it is not located in the central. It is normally located on the peripheral, what you call at the side, not in the center. And that one we can get the differences between where the location of the nucleus of a plant cell and location of the nucleus of an animal cell. You said the nucleus of an animal cell is located in the central, but for the case of plant cell, the nucleus is located peripheral or on the side of the cell vacuole. We can say the function of the nucleus, think about it, and you tell me what are the functions of the nucleus. Every cell contains the nucleus, except the red blood cells. The red blood cells, they don't have the nucleus. But white blood cells, they have the nucleus. The sperm cells has got the nucleus. The ovum has got the nucleus, all right? So they have the nucleus. And we can ask a question to ourselves. What are the functions of the nucleus that is found in all plant cell and animal cell? Here is the function of the nucleus. I can say the nucleus controls and regulates all activities of the cell. Yes. The nucleus controls all the activities of the cell. So it means all activities of the cell are normally controlled by the nucleus, without forgetting that the nucleus contains what you call the DNA. And by the way, if I say DNA, I mean deoxyribonucleic acid. Student, I know in senior 2, you're going to talk about the deoxyribonucleic acid, which I can say it controls. It is a storehouse for genetic information. And I can say, number 3, we can talk about the cell wall. Talk about, you can say yes. Let's talk about another function. Let's talk about the mitochondria. Mitochondria, it is used for cellular respiration. In other words, the mitochondria, as there are more mitochondria in the cell, more energy is going to be produced. That's why I say that in mitochondria, it is a site for respiration. It is a site for respiration. Mitochondria can call it to be a site for respiration. All right? That if I say respiration, it is the chemical breakdown of food to release energy. So that energy, once it is used, the energy produced is going to be used for doing work, for movement, and other body activities. All right? Let's talk about now the differences between a plant cell and an animal cell. Okay? We can also talk about another one supposed to be, let me say, talk about Roman 4, the virtual. The cell virtual. It is a site for storage of nutrients. And also, the cell virtual can also contain enzymes. It also contains enzymes. All right. Let's move quickly to the differences between plant cell and animal cell. Differences. I can say differences between differences between plant cell and animal cell. Plant cell and animal cell. We can think about the differences between plant cell and animal cell. As I can see on the diagram, we have something which is present in animal cell and which is absent in plant cell. And you also have to know their function. We have the cell wall. Cell wall is present in plant cell but absent in animal cell. We can also talk about the chloroplasts. The chloroplast is found in a plant cell but absent in animal cell. Another difference you can extract from there, you can see the allocation of the nucleus. The nucleus is located in the central, but here the nucleus is located on the peripheral. All right? Let's talk about the function of the cell wall. You can say the cell wall, there's presence of cell wall. If I say cell wall, let's talk about its function. You can say the cell wall is a rigid structure found outside of plants. And this membrane of the cell wall is a non-living cell. All right? So, and that one means that this one, the wall gives the plant a cell its shape because the cell wall is rigid and protects the content of the cell. You also have to talk about chloroplasts. The chloroplasts are found in plants, and I can say these chloroplasts are very important to trap that it is used. It is the chloroplast, can say chloroplasts are organelles found in plants, found in plant cells. In plant cells that carry the process of photosynthesis. So it's the chloroplast, I can say it is a sac which stores the green pigment which is called chlorophyll. So it traps sunlight energy. The presence of chloroplast traps the sunlight energy. Now let's have a table of the differences. Let's have a table of the differences. A table showing the differences between plant cells and animal cell. I can talk about the shape. We talk about the shape here. You can say this one have the plants. They have this one supposed to be. This is plants, and here I have animals. So you can say in terms of the shape, yes, this is in terms of the shape. We can say have cell wall, absent of cell wall. There's chloroplasts, okay? Contains chloroplasts, absent of chloroplasts. Absent of chloroplasts. So, can also have about the virtual. Can say large virtual. Here I can say small virtual or absent sometimes. So students, I think we also look for more definitions. You look for the more differences about plant cells and animal cells, plant cells and animal cells. The plant cells and animal cells, I think we can tell you a small exercise to define exercise. You can say, talk about define unicellular, and this is Roman 1, then multicellular. So you go to the page 51 where there's more exercise, and you work on it. So we are going to discuss it the next time. Thank you for being with me in biology lesson. I hope to be with you in the next lesson. Thank you.